you're Ngannou. You've just won the belt, so you're the undisputed heavyweight champion. Mm-hmm. Your contract's come to an end. Mm-hmm. You've got options to go into boxing. Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, whoever else, options there. Dana didn't put the belt around his waist, Mick Maynard did. So there's clearly some tension there. And all the questions that Ngannou got at the press conference, he was very much, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Where does he go next? What's the best call for him? Do you think he should go into boxing?
Depends on like what he wants. Is he looking for like a legacy thing? Is he looking for a payday? Is he looking? He seems very keen, and he's always seemed keen on boxing. So I think he should do it just because he's always wanted to. That's like saying I've always wanted to compete in something. Go ahead and do it. Like check out that bucket list before your career comes to an end. And he said, yeah, I'm getting older. That I have a limited time. Yeah, I don't know. I think he should, just because of how good like his wrestling is and everything has gotten up. So much work has been put into the evolution of his MMA game and not necessarily just his boxing game. And I know that one of his coaches is one of the trainers at Mayweather's gym. That's not necessarily like related, because in Mayweather's gym you can also just come in and train out of there. Doesn't mean you're necessarily connected to the whole thing.
But a boxing coach would pick him up in a second if he decided that's the route he was going.
Well, anybody would pick him up in a second because he's a big name and he has money. Like you can get a lot behind him. So that position, it's kind of like Jake Paul. Like he's in a position where anybody's going to pick him up and train him. Yeah, because he has all the resources.
But then, if he's going into boxing, he's going into boxing because he wants to be a boxing champion. In which case, he's probably going to have 10 fights before he's ready to fight for a belt and be a reigning champion. Or he's going to take the big money fights, which are names which I just don't see him comparing against. Like you put him in there against someone like Deontay Wilder, and Wilder's got that wild explosive power at the same time as Ngannou, but he's crafted that for boxing. And we know how effective he is with that. And I also think he's going to be more measured with his conditioning as well, because Ngannou's going to be trying to put everything into every punch, and Wilder doesn't do that. He delivers power shots intentionally. I think Tyson Fury would run him in a circle. Yeah. I think Anthony Joshua would just outpoint him and not let him touch him. Like you're struggling to find heavyweights that he would be competitive against. So then
one that beat Anthony
Ruiz.
Joshua, yeah.
So then, you put him in there against a heavyweight boxer, and then say he loses 2 fights, he might make $10 million, $15, $20 million, maybe 2 or 3 fights, but he'll probably lose. And then his options are, well, let's go back to MMA, and the UFC are going to shit on him when it comes to contract negotiations if he does that. If he goes away and has one boxing match just to make a point, they'll shit on him, or they'll say they don't want him, knowing full well that there's no heavyweight division anywhere else. Like, if he went over to one championship, he's up against Brandon Vera and Arjun Singh Bhullar. He takes their heads clean off on the same night. Like, he could go over to Glory Kickboxing, and then he's got someone like Alistair Overeem and Rico Verhoeven. That might be a good shout. But that's not going to be the same kind of money. No, of course. It's not going to be the same kind of money. Bellator has not got a heavyweight division to really offer. I mean, Ryan Bader would be terrified.
I don't think he would fight in I don't think he'd go to ONE or Bellator or anything else. Unless it was kind of like
if he hasn't got an option.
Feud to the UFC and they're paying him great, like PFL, for example, would be like, I'm going to put big money on the table. Yeah. Then he might go, but kind of to make a point.
But if he does that, which would be great, it'd be great for that organization. It's still like signing Cyborg. Like, you've still not really got opponents to put in front of them.
Yeah.
Like, there are heavyweights floating around the world, but you need legitimate heavyweights, and they're pretty much all on the UFC roster.
And he's already... There's not, other than Cyril, there wasn't really like a prospect that you're like, oh yeah, but you might be running away from this. And the only fight would be John Jones, and they kind of spent that last fight hard. They bet on Cyril to win.
Yeah, I think they were expecting Cyril to win the decision and to put Ngannou in a rough negotiating position. Yeah. I hope he doesn't go to boxing, because I think it really limits his options over the coming years. I think if he stays in the UFC, he can run this division, and he can continue to improve and keep negotiating himself into better positions. Because he's the heavyweight champion of the world. There's no reason why he shouldn't be getting paid a hefty chunk of money to be fighting.
Yeah.
Every single one of these guys. I mean, we talk about fighter pay all the time. It's very rare that we have someone that was willing to stand their ground. And usually what happens in the history of mixed martial arts and in the history of the UFC, if one person has enough equity in the sport as a brand and they're willing to stand their ground for long enough, they usually disappear into an office with Dana and come out and never mention it again. And I've seen that happen a whole bunch of times. Like sometimes there'll be a fighter and they'll start to say, fighter pay, this and that, etc., etc. I demand more, everybody else demands more. And then Tuesday morning comes around and they go into UFC offices and they come out and there's a photograph of them next to Dana in the lobby and a big smile on their face and a fat back pocket, and then they never mention it again. You know, like they can be strategic about how they pay people to make sure that, because the thing is, like if Francis goes, I want more money, we deserve more money, and the UFC go, yeah, you're right, then everyone's going to do it.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to do it, you know? So they have to be really, really careful about how they let these pay increases happen. And they always try and bargain you down to make sure that you get in as little as possible, because that sets the precedent across the sport. And the heavyweight champion of the world fighting for $500,000, you can't be in the welterweight division or the bantamweight division and be calling for more than that. And everybody in the championship fights deserves more than that.
Yeah.
So to hold the heavyweight champion down, to hold him to ransom, is holding the whole sport to ransom. And that's what he's fighting against, and I respect him for it. He should sign Jake Paul as his manager, and that what's his name, that wizard guy that Dana was shitting on the other day.
Did you see the thing that came up that the whole fight payout was 1.8 million for the entire card, and the
right?
Wilder Fury fight got 30 million.
Yeah,
I think just that fight.
I wonder, but then like you look at that and then you go, okay, now let's have a look what the gate was. So the money that came in on ticket sales, and usually the ticket sale money will rival the fighter pay for the evening. So then everything else that's being made, that's all in the pocket. Like there's money that goes into putting the events on, of course, and there's that comes with a hefty cost. But when something's being ran like this constantly on a week by week basis, it's just a massive amount of money coming in every time, and those figures disappear because we don't know what money's made on a backside. Like when we see these deals with like the NFTs being sold, being produced and stuff, that deal was, what was the deal with the crypto thingy? $175 million. Yeah. Like it's fucking crazy money, crazy money. It should be getting to the fighters, and we know this.